And Mark of the Rani, in my mind, stands out one of those stories where excess turns out to be camouflage. Long characterized as bubbles, dinosaurs shouting, and questionable hair, it is in fact carefully structured. The story opens with a promise and an immediate betrayal of that promise. Not immediately, of course. There was also the obligatory opening shot, setting the scene of the quiet English village, a staple of the John Nathan Turner era. This time it's an industrial heart of the village of Killingworth, in the north of England, establishing a quiet scene whereby the workers go out and they find their bathhouse after a long day's toil. But it was in the TARDIS we revert to the Coal Dock, and I'm going to call them the Coal Dock. The Coal Dock announces to Perry that they're heading to Kew Gardens, setting it as a civilized afternoon among rare plants and calm reflection. Coal then announces a time distortion caused by the presence of another TARDIS nearby and sending them off course. This scene sets the pace of their relationship as they land with a crunch and the doors swing open. Perry steps out and looks down and freezes. They are standing in a slag heap in northern England, smoke drifting lazily in the background. The little bride's response is instant and furious. "Oh, great," she says. "Great. This is in Kew Gardens. This is no substitute." Baker's doctor does not apologise so much as bristle. "Well," he says, "now, look at it on the bright side. Isn't manure just reconstituted plant life?" He arrogantly declares, "Hoist up your skirts, Perry. Off we go." They move off the slag heap in search of the time distortion with the mysterious scarecrow we later discover as the master, badly disguised. He's looking on ominously. I mean, it's like I've never this week sequence really derives no suspense whatsoever and looks as if it was really tagged on afterwards as a sort of afterthought. It really does. The producer John Nathan Turner later said he loved this opening sequence because it punctured grandeur immediately. After having been attacked on the road to the nearby industrial village, we find the workmen, aggressive and confrontational after the bathhouse, out of control and obstinate, not a natural state of mind. The Cold surmises it's obvious that the irrational behaviour of the workmen who attack them is down to Luddite behaviour or movement in the mid-industrial era. As he helps up one of the survivors of the attack, the Cold declares he is keeping an open mind. As to the reason behind this attack, quite how he comes to this conclusion is never quite addressed. Workers are not asleep, not unconscious, but subtly interfered with, hypnotized, selectively dulled. The Cold is now aware that they have arrived during the Industrial Revolution, that they had the pleasure of being there during George Stevens's time. He is intent from that point onwards upon meeting him. Cold is intent on finding out more, articulately in mind of the danger he senses. This is where we see the master is abroad in its change out of ridiculous scarecrow garb and the Cold declaring that he has a death to arrange. John Nathan Turner is explicit about this setting and told writers Pip and Jane Baker Victorian railways are chosen because they are optimism made from progress that once unleashed belongs no longer to its inventors. Anthony the Alien Master arrives as if auditioning for a different story entirely, cloaked, confident, and secretly articulate as Ainley often was. He speaks of the opportunity and manipulation with relish, trying to cover the previous workers of malcontents to the schemes into his mind. The master seems to arrange to convince the gangly men that the Cold is their enemy and intends to set upon them. "You let the man you should have destroyed go free," he insists, contempt doing most of the work. Ainley plays a master as a man who wants centre stage and senses faintly that he may not get it this time. Nonetheless, he convinces the gang that the Cold is present to merchandise the mine and deprive them of work. As the Cold is saved from the men who attack him as a result of the master's machinations, trying to push him down a mine shaft for the first time, Lord Ravensworth, he is very abruptly taken to his lordship's office. "My office now," Ravensworth says. VIPs indeed. It is explained that workers are out of control at the moment the seeming relentless and out of sorts. Miners' pits in this story seem to be the main source of suspense. Lord Ravensworth is unconvinced that the disruptions are down to Luddite attacks, as does the Cold Dog. After the Rani and the Master, the Rani has now appeared, have a short exchange where they exchange results and catch up on old times, setting up more plot devices such as the planet the Rani rules coming under dire need for chemical help that promotes her alien minions from the Coldok resolves to investigate further. On learning that many of the workers are missing due to the Rani's kidnapping for their neurological uniqueness, the Coldok starts his house calling by doing so in the most doctorish way imaginable, by smearing mud on his face and posing as a labourer. The disguise is catastrophically ineffective, although not before the Master produces a small full of hypnotism worms from the Rani, which will come back later to haunt us. Meanwhile, Parry watches from a distance as the Cold Dog does the mud smearing thing. Behind the scenes, the mud was applied with more enthusiasm than planned, leaving Baker half blinded and laughing between takes. The humour works because it establishes the Sixth Doctor's method early, improvisation over authority and clowning as camouflage, discovering later it was actually a healthy dose of faeces from the dog that had been used in earlier scenes, and that the dirty and shat upon Colin's pre-prepared mud. The Master discovers a mine shaft and is attacked by the workers possessed, and the Rani watches from a distance on her scanner. The Rani prevents an attack taking place because she fears he might destroy the vial of brain chemicals that the Master has stolen to keep her in line, at which contrived juncture the Master contrives with the aggressive villagers to throw the Coldok's TARDIS down the mine shaft. Once caught, the Sixth Doc lies in a wheeled bed, which is good for the episode's climax, and listens to the infuriated Rani. It is during this infuriation that the story reveals the true antagonists. Kato Mara does not announce herself with a villainous flourish. I'm not interested in their comfort, she states, only the results. We also get a speech from the Rani about the intrinsic virtues of vegetarianism and mortality that were very much in vogue in the 80s. Do humans care about the lesser species when they stick their teeth into a lamb chop? Writers Pip and Jane Baker later said that the Rani was conceived not as evil but as ethically absent. Ethically absent, I ask you. She does not delight in cruelty, she simply does not recognise it as relevant. The Master attempts to insert himself as partner and advisor, covalent to the Rani. The Master represents theatrical villainy, ego-driven, status-conscious. The Rani represents something colder, more contemporary, anally leans into the professional humiliation, playing the Master as the main man, realising he is no longer the most dangerous mind in the room. Episode 1 closes with one of Colin Baker's most memorable physical moments. Well, I do stipulate one of them. The Doctor nearly plunges down the mine shaft as a result of the Master's usual machinations, which at this point seem more like tropes than schemes. A forced decision to push him outside the Rani's lair where the Coldog intruded, not for a particular reason other than to drive the bloody plot forward. Comedy and danger coexist, and this is the genius of Mark of the Rani. But episode 2 opens with a grounding chaos in history, as George Stephenson saves the Coldog from sliding down the mine yet again. The realization that the TARDIS has been deposited down there by hypnotized villagers begins to sink on in the audience as well. The meeting of industrial minds that follows widens the lens. Innovation is no longer abstract. It is consequence beyond individual intent. John Nathan Turner, the bureaucratic producer, pushed hard for Stephenson's inclusion, seeing the railway age as fertile ground for Doctor Who's anxieties. Although that seems to pale in comparison when the Rani is around, an early case of Mary Sue feminism that actually works. He proposes partnership, he offers experience, the Rani dismisses him with a glance. Comedy, therefore, lies in the asymmetry. The Master needs recognition, the Rani does not. The Master's take over consciousness of Luke Ward, a son of Jack Ward, one of the workers who has also been taken under the Rani's thrall. Using little sluggettes to do this, he uses Luke to infiltrate the Rani's plans, yet another attempt of the Time Lord to regain control over the situation, and rather contrived, I might say. Midway through episode 2, it escalates deliberately. In a forest now, where Perry believes she is able to collect various herbs to combat the chemical that denies sleep in the villagers. He is abruptly transformed into a tree by the Rani who wishes to ensnare the Koldok, one moment protesting the next bark and branches. The visual is absurd, the implications are chilling, and Perry's reaction is instant as she is protected from the minds that have precipitated the event and pulled to Luke's trees aside. The Koldok's reply is quite vicious. He says, he goes, first you turn an innocent man into your acolyte, then you force him to betray his friends, and then the Rani does this awful thing to him. When the hypnotized villagers later turn on the Doctor in the forest, he survives not through strength but wit. Baker plays these scenes with nervous energy, panic held in check by intelligence. He talks, distracts, improvises, and escapes. This is the Koldok as a trickster rather than the warrior. Mind outrunning muscle. The collapse comes swiftly, and Rani's operation is exposed. Hypnosis breaks as the master loses the vial he has stolen from her to Koldok, and miraculously contains the brain chemicals that have been extracted from the villagers. Yet another ludicrous plot contrivance. The story saves its finest joke for the best. The Master and the Rani retreat to her TARDIS, only to discover that the Doctor has sabotaged it. Controls locked. Systems fail. A dinosaur mid-experiment continues to grow, bumping against the console. Trapped together, their dynamic curls into brittle comedy. The Master complains loudly, theatrically offended. Their dialogue becomes a duet of mutual contempt and reluctance into dependence. Ailey's flamboyant outrage ricochets off Amara's surgical irritation. Nathan Turner loved this ending. Some minds do not change, he maintains. They are simply stopped. Perry remains unsettled as he realizes the restoration of the TARDIS. Koldok is overjoyed, battered but not bowed, he says, almost embracing the machine. As the Koldoks reassure Stevenson that his invention will take off like a rocket, that's okay. Progress ensues. Lessons may not, and the Koldok's TARDIS disappears as Lord Ravenworth and Stevenson look on in awe and bewilderment. What are you doing there? Lord Ravenworth asks. The Koldok replies with enthusiastic, sardonic wit.
Argue, mainly.
Which makes Mark of the Rani endure, as it's not the message, but its confidence. It laughs while it warms, trusts performance over proclamation, understands the Doctor who works best when it remembers to entertain first. Someone becomes the tree. The Doctor nearly dies in the mine. 2 Time Lords are trapped with the dinosaur, and somehow it all hangs together. Not as excess, but as intent. And Mark of the Rani pursues such intent with vigour and with some acclaim.
You'll be telling me next he's better off.
Fans remember it as something which is to be adored, and those who don't do not appreciate its worth. Give us a good clicking.
Shakanaka.